have been.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And it's both an exciting day for Star Wars fandom as we had the finale for The Mandalorian today, but also a sad day for Star Wars because we lost another actor from the original trilogy.
Yeah, we did. We lost Jeremy Bulloch, the actor who portrayed Boba Fett in body, not in voice.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was his voice originally.
I don't think
and then they
so.
dubbed in Tamara Morrison later.
Well, they've dubbed in Tamura Morrison later is true, but I do not believe even the original voice was Jeremy Bulloch. Although somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think so.
And the only reason I say that is because when he was here for Comic-Con a number of years ago, I want to say I was not working for Comic-Con that year, but I believe it was the year that we did the podcast booth at Comic-Con.
Yeah. And
he was here for that. So we were podcasting from the con all weekend, but also Jeremy Bulloch was here and you had him autograph your Boba Fett figure. Tell us about that.
No, well, I don't have as good a story as I do for Dave Prowse because Dave Prowse sang a song. So it's not going to be that good. But I mean, so I got him to sign I got him to sign the Star Wars Holiday Special Boba Fett. So that was fun. And
nice.
Although, it's funny because you expect the only actor I ever had who got excited about the figure they were signing was Margot Kidder. Believe it or not, she was the only one who was like,
okay.
Wow, look at this Lois Lane. This is great. Like she was the only one. Most of the Star Wars actors are just like, here's another one. I don't know. Here's a grown man with a toy.
It's people who were in Star Wars are so used to being toys.
Yeah.
Margot Kidder, I imagine Lois Lane was the only one of her characters that was ever made into a toy. Right?
Yeah.
It's got to be.
When you think about it, I'd have to put I have to think hard about
that. I don't think there's any other movie she was in. Anyway, but yeah, so she probably did not see a ton of Lois Lane action figures, whereas, And
Jeremy Bulloch, everybody said he's a quiet English gentleman, and he was very quiet. He seemed like a very introverted fellow. And I don't recall even having an exchange of conversation with him, but that's probably my fault. I noticed this week they had the Twitter listening party for Belle and Sebastian, Tim's Twitter listening party, and I ran into the lead singer of Belle and Sebastian on the street before the concert, and I tweeted him this week, and I said, I just choked out "have a good show," and then I disappeared into the shadows because I was too nervous, and I think when I was a kid, I remember Jeremy Bulloch was the actor that I stuck around to see the name at the end. I wanted to know who played Boba Fett because the figure was already out. And so I remember memorizing his name, Jeremy Bulloch, and then like going to school and being like, Jeremy Bulloch plays Boba Fett.
And everyone's like, who the hell's that?
Right. And people are like, wow, how did you know that? I was like, because I memorized the one credit. and so when I got him to autograph the thing, it was kind of like, it was exciting because I remember as a kid sticking around and trying to figure out who it was because everybody knew Boba Fett was the coolest new character in the galaxy sort of thing. And so to meet him was pretty exciting. Yeah. But as I say, I don't think we, and if I did say hello or something like that, I have blocked it out of my mind because I was so excited.
Yeah, and that was I believe that was 2014 that he came to Winnipeg for Comic-Con, and which was before it actually predates this podcast. But the other thing about it is, and I read his obituary on the air yesterday. I was working at CJOB last night, and it came up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll put this in the news. And it was they didn't say much about him. They said he had acted in British television before that, and he didn't do much else after that. That was kind of his big kind of claim to fame was being Boba Fett. And the reason, anyway, getting back to my story about his voice, when he did his session, when he did his like Q&A session, someone asked about it, and he said, I remember him saying something about him trying to do like a Clint Eastwood voice for Boba Fett, right? Do you remember that? So that's why I assumed it was his voice, because it kind of did sound like Clint Eastwood.
But you'll also remember our pal Tim Rose also will do Admiral Akbar's voice on command, but he didn't do the voice in the movie. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe, and I saw that Q&A that you're talking about, and it is confusing, but I think what he would do with those Q&As is he would show, I think he brought somebody up on stage, and this was like his standard shtick, where he taught people how to stand like Boba Fett, how to look cool like Boba Fett, and I think he did that with someone in the audience, if I recall. And then he did a how to talk like Boba Fett, and I don't think he ever claimed. I think it seemed like he might do the voice, but I don't believe he ever said in that thing that it was him doing it. I think it was more of like a fun audience interaction thing.
Yeah. Do you think it's just a matter of like they don't want to get into it because it's too confusing and too complicated to get into? Like, I did the body, someone else did the voice, and this happened in Star Wars a lot.
Yeah.
Because you had actors in those costumes, and then somebody else doing the voice, because it's like Admiral Akbar is basically a puppet. That head is a puppet. So it's got Tim Rose is in the costume, but he can't talk while he's in that costume, right? So they had somebody else, it's a trap, do the voice like that. Anyway, so but yeah, it's a very sad. Jeremy Bulloch, 75 years old, passed away. Apparently he had Parkinson's for a number of years. I didn't know that. No. So it was that was the main cause of his passing was Parkinson's. So yeah, another sad day. Another original trilogy actor lost. It's too bad.
Yeah, and all of these actors were the ones that I would look at on the tops cards, the behind the scenes. Once in a while, you'd get the behind the scenes card. And in fact, I got a couple of them. I got a couple stickers on my dresser just around the corner there. And I can see there. One of the ones is the makeup artist fixing Chewbacca's lips, for instance. And so you would look at those cards, and they would have and they would show the actors behind the costumes and stuff. And that's how you knew these actors. And you would read magazines and stuff, but you really had no way of thinking about like, what is a person like? I remember thinking, what is a person who play a stormtrooper like how do they do that? And how did they get the job? How could I be a stormtrooper? Because you don't need to know how to act, you just have to run around. So he was one of those original actors like David Prowse, who we saw out of the mask, maybe in magazines and on cards first, and then later on interviews and those sorts of things. But it was just, Star Wars seemed so real. It was hard to even imagine there was actors in those costumes when we were kids. Yeah, so it's sad. It's very sad. I mean, it's sort of like our favorite musicians dying in recent years, and it's just, the reality is that's what they call an actuarial chart in insurance business, which is once you get to a certain age, the herd starts thinning somewhat. Right. And while it's sad, it's not unexpected when people reach a certain age, but it does make you reflect on your own age, and it makes you reflect. We're just about to talk about The Mandalorian, and it makes me reflect on my age and the fact that I'm still a Star Wars fan in my 50s. Mm-hmm. The one and Paul McCartney's album came out today too, by the way. So it's like my two biggest fandoms converge on one day. I know, on one day together. And it does make you think about it.
How's the album?
I have not played it yet, but it's got rave reviews. It's McCartney 3, his third album where he plays absolutely everything on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So there you go. They're still cranking it out, and they're still cranking out Star Wars. And I today I'm going to suggest that maybe Star Wars is the best it's ever been. Maybe.
No, it's not as good as the original trilogy. I don't think it ever will be for me. But that being said, certainly a lot of people are excited about The Mandalorian this season. More so, I feel like it's more so than last year. Like, people are really into it and talking about it a lot. And yeah, of course, and it was I don't want to say fitting, that's not the right word, but very coincidental or whatever, that Jeremy Bulloch passed away on the eve of the premiere of the finale of the show that brought his character back, brought Boba Fett back. And yeah, so basically we get into this episode.
Jeremy Bulloch, the original Mandalorian.
Exactly. Although in this episode, he says, "I never claimed to be a Mandalorian." That was an interesting scene.
But it is safe to say, that might be true, but it is safe to say, no Boba Fett, no Mandalorian TV series.
Oh, for sure. No, that armor, it's all in the design of the armor. That's what made him so interesting. And I don't know, we should actually be celebrating the person who designed that armor, or who maybe is it Ralph McQuarrie came up with the design? I don't know. But that is really what gets people interested in that character, and therefore in the Mandalorian and all Mandalorians, because they all wear a version of that armor.
Yeah.
So basically we come in. This is chapter 16. It's called The Rescue. We kind of figured that that was going to be the main thrust of this episode.
That relaxed me right off the top, because I was like, they're not going to call it The Rescue if everybody gets killed.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. So that's good. And then we start off by having it was this awesome kind of hijack scene where Slave One overtakes a Lambda shuttle. Is that what they're called? Lambda shuttles, right?
Well, I think that was the particular call sign of the one.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
I think
sorry.
so, but it's an Imperial shuttle.
It's an Imperial shuttle, yeah. I don't know why. Sometimes they call them Delta. Yeah, you're right. I think it might be that particular one. Yeah. So they overtake the shuttle, and they get on board, and they've got this shuttle has the scientist on it. The scientist that you predicted would be back was back, and basically it's him with these two Imperials, and one of them looked familiar. You talk about the scene while I look up this Imperial guy that I think is familiar.
I looked up those Imperial guys too, because I thought they were twin brothers.
They did look very similar. Yeah. I thought they were too.
And so part of me was like, did that guy just kill his twin brother? That's what I
You
wanted
always think about these extra levels of detail.
Yeah.
Whenever you're watching things, you're like, is that what that was? And like, nope.
And it wasn't.
But again, this is kind of what we're talking about when it's like, when you're casting people, be aware that the one guy might look like another guy. This is the thing. Like, you have to think about that.
That might have been intentional too, because if they both kind of look similar, you kind of forget about the person. They're more like they're the uniform. I think that's what they were aiming at. And I love how they just plunge us into the action right from the start of the show too, where it's just like the show starts and there's Slave One shooting at a shuttle, and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? What did we miss from the last episode? So I love that. I love the beginning of this episode. What did you find out?
He is from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's Nathaniel Malik. He was the big bad guy in the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's where I recognize that actor from, who played the mean. I want to say it's funny because they've got him here credited as co-pilot, but he did most of the talking. So I thought of him as the pilot. But anyway, and so they...
If Bosch only lived for about 5 minutes, like, this guy doesn't have a prayer, right?
Exactly. So they come on board. They're looking for information about Baby Yoda. Like, again, I'm not sure why they're doing this. I guess they need more information about how they're holding him, or what.
Well, I think originally it's to get access to the ship. I think that's the original
Same
plan.
kind of deal as in Return of the Jedi, where they pretend to be right. So they do that. Yeah, so that's how they want. Now, again, not sure how the warning that Mando sent to Gideon last episode helped at all.
It just got the audience ready.
It did, but it's funny because somebody I saw, someone on Facebook had photoshopped Mean Gene Okerlund into that shot with a microphone up to Mando's, because it seemed very much like a wrestling, like just boasting and getting your opponent riled up, like they used to do in wrestling all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. He's just like, all it is just kind of getting people ready for the finale. So then they kind of execute their plans. And again, let me know if I miss anything or if there's something you want to stop and talk about here. As always, I'm kind of scrolling through this.
Well, there's also when do they meet up with Bo-Katan, and when does that happen?
That was at the beginning. That was like in the first scene, or first couple of minutes. Like they take over the shuttle, then they go off. And oh no, I don't want chapter 8. What the hell's going on here? I thought I had it up already.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Season 2 chapter, and I love the thumbnail for this episode is that Death Star droid.
Another action figure.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The action figures are representing this season.
Yeah, and it's funny because yesterday or the day before was the 4th anniversary of Rogue One. It came out in theaters 4 years ago, and I posted that in our Facebook group. And actually, it was interesting. I got quite a wide range of responses. I think we should rewatch Rogue One at some point.
Yeah.
And take another look at it, because some people still really don't like that movie, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I'm not on board. It's the greatest. Like my friend in Texas thinks it's great, and I don't think it's great. I think it's fine though. I think it's good, but and well, actually, there's more to talk about later. So you keep going.
All I was going to say was that one person commented that they liked Rogue One because it didn't seem like they were creating characters just to make toys out of them. And I responded with, what are you talking about? There's like 5 different stormtroopers in that movie. Every Star Wars property, every movie, TV show creates new toys. That's just part of the model now, right? So that's always going to happen. So then, okay, so yeah, they're right. So after they get the shuttle, they go to some unknown planet with giant factories on it. I want to know more about those factories and what those are doing.
Yeah, I thought that looked like Manitoba.
It does.
It does.
It kind of does.
It does. Like basically a factory in the middle of a flat prairie.
Of a field. That's Manitoba. Yeah, it's like a grain elevator for sure.
It does.
So then that's where they go and they find Bo-Katan, and it's cool because you've got Mando and Boba Fett walking in there, and then you've got 2 other Mandalorians. What happened to the third guy? Did he die? Did that guy die in that episode?
That's the question that everyone's asking, including me. I was like, that guy's gonna come back. Like, no, he's not.
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't know. I don't remember what happened to him, but I guess he wasn't important. So, but it's kind of cool because we have like 4 people in Mandalorian armor, kind of meeting in this bar, and like that's where it comes out. Like she's like, Bo-Katan says to Boba Fett, "You're not a Mandalorian." And he's like, never claimed to be. Like he was flat out saying, "I wear this armor to honor my father, and that's it. It has nothing to do with being a Mandalorian." And so they talk to her, and again, this is whole like they bury the lead on this. They go up to her to ask for help, and they forget to tell her right off the bat that they know where Gideon is. And she's like, what? When she finds out, oh, okay, well, then I'm in. Because at first she's like, no, forget it. And then she agrees. So then those 2 Mandalorians join their cause.
Well, except they have the fight I thought of you during the Boba Fett versus Bo-Katan fight there that we had there just momentarily, because you said you always need the scene where the 2 people who ultimately agree at first fight with each other.
Yeah.
So they had that fight.
A bit of a minor version of that. Yeah, they do. And it's kind of becoming a what's it called?
A trope? A trope?
What's the word? Trope. Thank you. It's becoming a trope by now. But whatever.
She also calls attention to Boba Fett's voice sounding, she says, "You're a clone, and I'm very familiar with that voice." And I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Any callback to ideas like, don't you mean your donor, and that kind of like all that stuff. It's great. It all kind of brings back memories of the prequels, and of course, it's more of a referral to the Clone Wars series more than anything. And then we have the classic Star Wars come up with a plan scene. They get a hologram in front of them. They take a look at. They somehow have the specs of this Death Star. I guess from the scientist. I don't know. And not Death Star. Sorry, it's a cruiser. They don't even call it a Star Destroyer. It's just a cruiser. And so then. They kind of deal with Bo-Katan saying, you can have the cruiser after we're done to help in your fight against the Mandalorian, to get Mandalore back. And then she's like, oh, wait, I want this. Obviously she wants the Darksaber. And then she explains to him what the Darksaber is. And so they have, but again, the plan is like, okay, we're going to go in here. I can't remember what the plan. It's a typical Star Wars plan where they're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And there's no dissenting voices, no, hey, what if this happens or whatever. They just come up with a plan and they go with it. We get a little more information about the Darksabers, where that guy confirms that they are indeed droids. They're not troopers. There's nobody in there. So we've got that bit of information, and they start to try to execute their plan. I like this shot of the shuttle and Slave One in hyperspace together. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, totally great.
That was neat. And then they come out at light speed, and they basically they pretend they do the old we're hurt. Get help. What was that? It's from the Avengers. We're gonna do, or from Thor. We're gonna do get help. Remember, get help. And
no, I don't remember.
Well, they come in and they pretend that Loki's injured, and they're like, get help. Like that. Anyway, it's the same deal.
That's funny. I don't remember it, but it's good.
It's the same deal. The shuttle. So they're in the shuttle. Boba Fett's in the Slave One pretending to attack them.
Yeah.
So that they can kind of, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And again, I got shades of actually Battlestar Galactica a little bit in that scene, because we have Katie Sackhoff, who played Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica. We have these like TIE fighters coming out of the launch tube or whatever they called it, the launch area, and they're just kind of shooting out of that cruiser one at a time, which seems inefficient because I know we've seen TIE fighters like flock out of Star Destroyers before, so one at a time seems a little weird.
That was Battlefront. Star Wars Battlefront, where you could land. Remember, you could land your ship into the other ship and then jump out and then shoot everybody. That was that.
Okay, I forgot about that.
Battlefront 2. Sorry, Battlefront 2.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so then they go through that and they get on board and they have this fight. they just kind of fight their way through the ship, and we see the Rock'em Sock'em robots, I'm going to call them, come online. And what's interesting about these Dark Troopers is that they take a while to boot up, which I think is kind of funny.
Well, I like that. They set up a few things. Those guys take a while to boot up. The Beskar armor can withstand lightsabers. They establish
and the dark saber.
Right. They establish that early. There's a few things that they lay out. They lay the groundwork for folks who forgot or whatever. For exposition, it's pretty good though.
Yeah. It's not overly done. Like, it's fine. It's like little pieces of information here and there to help us understand and know what to expect a little bit. And I think these Dark Troopers actually do look like Rock'em Sock'em robots a little bit if you look at their eyes and the way they're kind of placed. Sure. And then they spend a good chunk of this episode punching things. Right? They're just like punching down walls, punching down doors. So the plan is for them to and this is another thing I thought about when I was watching this is we have 4 female characters. We have the 2 Mandalorians. We have Cara Dune and we have Fennec, Ming-Na Wen, and they're fighting their way through. And they're like basically the distraction while Mando sneaks in there and kind of stealthily finds his way to the cell where they're keeping Baby Yoda, and that's the whole point of it. Yeah. And so then, what I liked about that is that it's 4 female characters, fighting their way through the ship. And it seems fine. It was not like overly done. Like, and I think back to the moment again. This is going back to the Avengers Endgame when we had that stupid scene where all the girl superheroes get together to carry the glove, and we're gonna work together. That was so cheesy and so bad that moment. This is how you do that. And if you're gonna have 4 female characters, just have them do it. You don't have to make a big show out of it.
Well, it was weird. Cool. The Avengers made them come together in a way that did not seem like it just happened in the plot.
It's like girl power. Right. It was all, whatever. And I mean, I'm not all for girl power. That's fine. But just the way they did it in this episode was way better. It was just like the 4 of them. They're badass. They're fighters. They're going to kick ass. And they do. They go through and they basically kick ass. They take over that ship. They make it where they successfully make their way to the bridge. And meanwhile, Mando's got to go and he's got to try and eject the Dark Troopers, which I think is not a good idea. Like, what did you think that was going to do? They're robots. They don't die in outer space. So I knew they were going to come back. I figured that was going to happen. And then they go to, but he does end up ejecting them. But he does have a fight with one of them, and it turns out to be a pretty tough fight. I thought, honestly, when it's sitting there punching his helmet, I thought it was going to dent the helmet so badly that he was going to have to take it off and just forget about it.
That's what I thought too. I thought that was going to give him the excuse to remove it. Yeah.
But that didn't happen, and he did fight his way off and destroy the one Dark Trooper, and then eject the rest of them out into the. I love how it's just a big handle on the wall. It's like, and they all blow out of the airlock. And then he goes to find Baby Yoda, and of course that's where Gideon is. He's in the cell with Baby Yoda, Darksaber held basically against his throat, saying, "Come any closer, and I'm going to kill him." And I honestly felt a little bit let down with Gideon in this episode. That's the one kind of negative I'm going to say about it, is that he didn't put up much of a fight in the end. Like, it was a bit of a fight.
Oh, sure.
Right? But I just, like, once they got there, it's like, okay, he was no match for Mando. Basically, when it came to hand-to-hand combat, there's no, you can't beat him.
Well, because he is not a trained wielder of a lightsaber, so he's easier to beat than someone else who shows up later.
So then, yes, we're keeping that quiet for now. So then, Mando beats him. Mando's got his Beskar spear, and he's got the Darksaber. Again, another fight, but quickly over, and basically he takes Gideon up to the bridge with Baby Yoda, puts Gideon in cuffs. It moves along pretty quickly this episode, hey?
Oh, yeah. It's a 45-minute episode, I think. This is not a show that takes that drags stuff out generally. No. It's a show that's pretty efficient at telling the story.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything that's revealed in this scene between him and Gideon before we move on. I don't remember.
Well, Gideon is kind of like, at his heart, he's sort of a coward in the end.
He is, yeah.
But he's kind of a coward, and he's kind of and he attempts to take his own life, but is unsuccessful.
Oh yeah, but he also like tries to fake out Mando in this part where he's like, "Go ahead, take the child. I'm done with him." And then he tries to strike him down with the. Now clearly, again, Gideon doesn't know that this Darksaber will not cut through Beskar, right?
Right.
Because he thinks I think he was just expecting to slice off
Right.
Mando's head and be done with it. So then there's this fight. I'm just watching the fight now. Again, pretty quickly over. They take him out, take him to the bridge, and then the Dark Troopers come back. And that's kind of where we're sitting. Like there's this big kind of scene where the Dark Troopers come back in. They're trying to bang down the wall, right?
Indeed, they are. And then they look out the window and they think, well, this isn't going to help us. They see something coming and they poo-poo it.
Well, here's the thing, and it's interesting to me. So basically, in the middle of this, and they're all trapped in the bridge. Gideon is hiding a blaster. Somehow somebody left a blaster on the floor, and he's like hiding it. He's figured he's going to take advantage of that. And then an X-wing shows up, and I for a split second thought it might be our friend from Kim's Convenience in that X-wing. I did, because that was like something that they had established earlier in the season, that this person was kind of nosing around this whole thing.
Yeah, it's a fake out.
So what's that?
It's a fake out. I think that
was a fake out.
Yeah. I think we're still not sure who's in that X-wing. Although I was at that point, I had a good feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been better. Like it's fine of who it was.
Fine. It was amazing.
Okay, go ahead. You talk about this.
Oh my God. Well. Okay, so let's just start with the idea. Like, okay, earlier in the season, we see the Slave One streak across the air, and it's like, whoa! That was like a moment of whoa. This episode replicates that, except with the X-Wing fighter, when we go, oh, holy. And they go, well, oh, great. One X-Wing pilot is here to help us. Oh, boy. But, and then the second fake out is... You see the person coming in with a cloak on, and it still could be anybody, right?
At this point, it's pretty obvious who it is.
It's pretty clear that none other than Luke Skywalker has just entered the room.
And the real exciting moment for me was Ignite the Green. It was when he saw the green lightsaber.
Oh, yeah.
That was
That's
very,
where
very
you know.
cool. And I'm sure Steele Saunders was just having a fit over that, because he's been calling for that for years, right? He's always wanted to see the Luke Skywalker with the green lightsaber again, and that was the best part of that for me, and a great shot of him, like he just plowing through those. It just goes to show you cannot make, like, it's the Dark Troopers are basically a newer version of the droid soldiers from the prequels, and it just shows you that droids are no match for the Force, right? Like he just took them out.
Well, he's the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy at this point,
yeah.
and it's on display. Like, he doesn't need any backup or any assistance. He can just go. He can take care of business.
Yeah, and it did remind me of, there's an episode of, you'll remember that old Clone Wars series, the shorts that they did, the actual drawn animation before they did the CGI one, right? Remember those?
Yeah.
And there's that one episode where they had Mace Windu take on a planet full of droids. And remember that? And he just took them out. Like, it was just like that. It was just like one guy taking on a ton of droids and kicking their ass, and it was awesome. But
totally.
we didn't see it. We didn't see it all firsthand. A lot of it we saw through the security cameras, which I thought was kind of interesting. They did that.
I thought we might only see it through the security cameras, and I thought, hey, that's great. I don't care. That's a great way to do it. I'm fine with it. Then every glimpse of Luke that we got, I just couldn't believe it. Like I'm exhausted today, like just like the days where we go to line up outside the theater.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just as tired today because it's exhausting, because you're just like, oh my God, could this actually be happening? And it is happening. But then they let Luke in, and Mandalorian says, and of course Luke takes care of business, no problem. And the Mandalorian says, "Are you a Jedi Knight?" It's like, this is so good. Like,
by the way,
this is amazing.
Baby Yoda is feeling a connection as well throughout that whole thing. He's like looking at the TV and putting his hand on the TV, and he feels the Force. He feels Luke through the Force. So Baby Yoda is getting excited as well.
Yeah, and Baby Yoda seems a little depressed at the early part of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of cool to see what happens when another Jedi Knight shows up. And I guess a Jedi or Jedi Master shows up, I guess. And so I love that. And then we see Luke, and it looks like to me like they fixed the problem of Leia in Rogue One.
Yeah, kind of. I would say that's not perfect. Still not perfect. Still not like. I don't think it's at the level that, Sam Jackson in like Captain Marvel kind of thing. But I think a part of the reason is because Mark Hamill's face has changed so much since then. It's not quite the same. Whereas, like, for example, Samuel L. Jackson looks pretty much the same as he did 20 years ago. So for Mark Hamill, it didn't look perfect. I noticed his face was very, very stoic, like did not show a lot of expression. Because I think that once you get into that, like if you were to smile or something like that, then it might start looking, the uncanny valley might show up here, right? So I thought it was okay.
I was convinced. I was convinced by it. I did not like. Unlike, I was not a fan of Leia in Rogue One
and Tarkin as well. Let's not forget about Plasticine Tarkin.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was not a huge fan of that either. Yeah. But I thought today, I thought they nailed it. Like I bought it. I thought. When I first saw it, I thought, is that Sebastian Stan?
I was expecting it to be him, to be honest. I was half expecting it to be Sebastian Stan when he took out the hood. Because I'm like,
it looked more like him today than it ever has.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did a little research online. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it's an actor. So it's an actor with the digital Luke dropped on the actor and the voice of Mark Hamill.
So it's not Mark Hamill actually there?
No, I don't believe he is. I believe it's a different actor. Now, if what I read was correct, because I wanted to find out if it was Sebastian Stan, because I couldn't, it was at the point where I could not tell where the actor ended and the CGI began.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, well, how did this work? Like, how did they do this? And who is this? And in the credits, it says Mark Hamill.
Yes. Now, I think it depends on, one of the things that's different here is that the fact that they have the live actor to model if they wanted to. For in the case of Tarkin and Leia, both those actors had passed away, so they couldn't do anything with the actors. So I think that when you have the actual actor there to scan their face or do whatever, it looks better. And it does absolutely look better. But I would think that it would be that's interesting. So if Mark Hamill was never there, I don't know.
I don't believe he was.
Okay.
Unless who knows if he was on the set or not, but I don't believe that
I'm sure he was on the set at some point.
I don't believe they put him in the outfit and then whatever did something.
And it certainly, of course, was a different person doing all the lightsaber stuff as well. That's got to be a stunt double doing all that combat stuff.
Right.
So
right, and that I don't know. I was blown away by. I did not think they were going to show us his face. I thought that they were going to stay away from that, but so when they did. Yeah, so when they did, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is outrageous!" Like it's Return of the Jedi sequel.
It is.
It's basically what it is. Yeah. It was crazy, and then R2D2 rolls in, and I was
awesome.
like, "Oh my god!"
I loved it. I was so excited. Yeah. I'm like, "Woohoo, R2D2!" And he's gonna get along great with Baby Yoda. Those two are gonna have a ton of fun together.
Well, I thought R2D2. Remember when Yoda was hitting him with the stick and everything, and he was kind of like, "Uh oh,
another one of these guys."
Here's another trickster who's going to play pranks on me. Kind of thing, but I thought, oh my god, R2D2 rolls in and you're like, oh, come on, like what else? Then we have to watch the emotional, get the heartstrings pulled when Mando takes off the helmet and says goodbye to little Grogu, but he says to Luke he doesn't want to go, and Luke says it's too dangerous if he doesn't come along. If he's not trained, it is too dangerous out there for him, and so he needs his training, and I was thinking about kids watching the episode because it pulls at your heartstrings, but at the same time you can go, okay, you're safe with Luke. You're safe with Luke, unless, of course, and certainly I don't think they'll ever give us a moment where Grogu is at the temple or Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren do the bad stuff at the temple. I don't think that's where this is going. I don't believe this show would do that to us.
No.
So and especially since so many kids watch the show. But I thought of that crossed my mind. But overall, the general feeling is you can let him go with Luke because Luke is not going to let harm come to him.
The problem is that for me, and I think that Mando's being trusting of the what he was told. Right? He's like, okay, this is my mission. Send him back to the Jedi, and here's a Jedi, so I'm going to give it to him. But at the same time, Mando has no idea who Luke Skywalker is. Right? Which is like, he's like, are you a Jedi? Basically, he doesn't know who he is. And there's no explanation of where he's taking him. There's no explanation of like where, like there's no give me your phone number. I'll touch base every once in a while. He just like takes him and goes without any.
He says, "I'll see you again." He says,
"That's right." Yeah, without any introduction, without it, like you think that even Luke could explain. Now we don't need the explanation because we're the audience, but certainly I think Mando should be explained. Like someone should tell him what's going to happen to Baby Yoda.
I think the idea is that Luke Skywalker can find whoever he wants. It doesn't matter.
I guess so.
He'll find. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Best Sleep Center. You'll find us.
That's a local
it's not
reference.
Yes, it's not dissimilar to that, where it's like, yeah, hey, if you know how Google works, you'll find Mando. You'll find him.
Yeah, and I have to say that I loved that scene where he took off his helmet, and you can really see the emotion and the just the tears welling up and the sadness to see Baby Yoda go. He's very, very upset to let him go. It was a great scene, and I love that they took his helmet off, and now I think we're getting to the point where he is okay taking his helmet off. I think we're going to see that in the next season. He's just going to take it off just the way the other Mandalorians do. He's going to. So we're kind of beyond the I never take off my helmet thing.
Yeah, that's I don't know. There's so much in that scene. I'm probably gonna watch this episode 100 times by the time it's all over.
Yeah, I'll watch it again. When my kids come home from school, we're probably gonna watch it again, and I'll definitely watch it a few times as well.
Yeah.
So we can talk about it going forward. But again, this is like it all came to an end very, very quickly, where he basically sends him off with Luke, and that's it. That's the end of the episode, and they just cut. Like there's no scene where it's like they see Cara Dune back on the planet. What are you gonna do now? I'm gonna go do it. There's none of that. It's just like, well, we'll figure that out next season. This is where we're gonna end it. Boom, it's done. He got Baby Yoda to the Jedi.
It actually crossed my mind that this ending pulls off in a better way what The Force Awakens tried to do, ending the movie with Luke. Okay, so The Force Awakens ends the movie with Rey handing the lightsaber to Luke, and we're like, what's gonna happen? This ended similarly with a what's gonna happen. We might never, and it wouldn't surprise me if we never see Luke again. If season.
But I think we're gonna see Baby Yoda.
Oh, no, we will. And in fact, maybe season 3 might even start with them together again. And we don't have any.
Yeah.
We don't know. How did the training go? How long has it been? We don't know. We don't have any idea of any of that. And then until Baby Yoda opens up a can of whoop ass on somebody, and then we know. Luke has trained this guy. This is great. So I don't know that we'll ever see Luke again on The Mandalorian, but I know we'll see Baby Yoda again, and I don't know what I think they've said there's a season 3, right? There better be.
There is, yeah. There's absolutely season
Good.
3.
I can't wait to find out what they do with it. And we should also mention that when we cut to the credits, it's a whole different. It's more of a somber theme.
Yeah, they usually show art from the concept art. They don't do any of that for this one. It's just credits, just like a regular Star Wars movie credits, like just blue text. Was it yellow? Maybe, I don't know what color it was. And that's it. Just the actors who were in
the big
else.
surprise is Mark Hamill in the credits. And by the way, it's already listed on IMDb, so I hope nobody's going there or before they watch the episode, because
there's definitely some spoilers here, and you told me, you texted me and said watch for spoilers. So I did. I just went straight to.
Oh, and this was also the Ant-Man director did this one as well.
Yes,
we thought it was going to be right. Peyton Reed. Peyton Reed, is that his name? Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And we thought it was going to be Jon Favreau who directed this one for some reason. Yeah. So Peyton Reed did it, so I was surprised by that. Although maybe I shouldn't have been. That was probably out there already. And so I was just blown away by this episode. So I just sat and watched the credits, and I also said to you, don't miss the post-credit sequence. and as I said to you before the podcast, a friend of mine texted me from Texas, and he's like, what an episode. This is crazy. My mind is blown. And I can see he's still texting me, and I go, did you see the post-credit sequence? And then suddenly his texting stops, and he vanishes for 10 minutes. Clearly to go watch the end credit sequence, which he did not see. So there's going to be probably a bunch of people in that boat today. But
now, how did you know about the end credit
I was just
sequence?
so blown away by the show that I just let the credits play. And I was like, why aren't they showing, why is the theme music different? And why aren't they showing sketches? And I was like, well, I'm just going to let it wash over me. And then what? And then suddenly we see Jabba's palace, and I was like,
that was awesome. I loved it. I was so excited.
It's like you've already murdered me with this episode. Now what are you gonna do to me? What's gonna happen? Is the Sarlacc gonna be sitting there or something? having a chat with someone. I was like, what could this possibly be? And
it turns out that Bib Fortuna has taken over Jabba's palace. I was a surprise.
Yeah, you have to gain weight when you become the crime boss. You have to gain.
Well, because you don't exercise. Nope. You're just doing whatever you want, right? There's no like. So yeah, everybody gains weight that becomes a crime boss. So yeah, Bib Fortuna has gained weight quite a bit. And
Tony Soprano. He's Tony Soprano. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a throne. Now they built a throne on the platform where Jabba used to sit. But it was great to see that room again, that room where the grate drops down into the Rancor pit and that kind of stuff. So that was great to see. And then all of a sudden, and he's just sitting there kind of doing his crime boss thing. And all of a sudden, Fennec comes down to shoot. She shoots again. The guards are useless, just like they were when Luke showed up there. And basically, they Boba Fett and Fennec shows up, and they flat out kill him. They're just like, and I mean, it was great. A great shot. He's like, Boba, I thought you were dead. How's it going? Like he's all like that. And he's like, nope. Bam. He just shoots him, and he gets on the throne. What the hell? Like, that was so weird.
He gets on the throne, and now he's the crime boss.
I guess.
And Fennec Shand is his fixer.
She's his Bib Fortuna now.
You're right. And then it says, coming in December of next year, the Book of Boba Fett. What? Is it a series?
What? Is it a movie?
And right after they had announcements of 10 different Star Wars things, it's like, make it 11. And how... And my mind was just blown because I was like, how... We better still get Mandalorian Season 3 next year.
Oh, yeah. I think we will. Yep.
We better. Don't make me wait longer than a year to see the Mandalorian season.
Oh,
3.
I see what you're saying. You think they might postpone it because this will be out next year. I don't think that. I hope not. I really hope that's not the case. I think the best part of this whole thing has been that they've been consistent about being 1 year per season.
Yeah.
Which I think, and that's not something a lot of shows do these days because a lot of shows take a long time. Like I'm trying to think of the last time we got a season of like Barry, for example, or something like that, like an HBO show. Sometimes they go 2 or 3 years between seasons.
Yeah.
So, Better Call Saul is another one where we get usually it's a couple years between seasons. So I hope that they do come back with that next season. Now we do have next year the other show will be the Cassian Andor show. Yeah. I believe that's the next one coming out in addition to this. But we don't know that it's a show. Do we know that it's a show?
The Book of Boba Fett sounds like it is. It could even be an anthology series for crying out loud. But it sounds like it will be. Well, who knows? It sounds to me like a limited series, but I'm guessing.
Yeah. I would, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably like the Ahsoka one, going to be a limited series, a one-off, 6 or 7 episodes of something.
Yeah,
and that'll be it. It's not going to be an ongoing series. It's just going to be a little bit of more of what, and it's going to be this. It's going to be Boba Fett living as a crime boss on Tatooine. I guess is what we're going to see, which again is really interesting. Now I would assume, I just figured that. I said this a couple episodes back that the Hutts are like a crime family, and when one Hutt dies, you think they would just install another Hutt there, but they didn't. It's so weird to me that Bib Fortuna was the one who ended up taking over. They didn't just stick another Hutt in there because they've done that. I think they've done that in the past, right? We've had references to other Hutts and other
we
things
have
in the Clone Wars.
One, who knows who's crawling around out there from the Hutt. From the Hutt clan.
I'm sure, but that could happen. That's something that could happen in the Book of Boba Fett for sure. He could go up against the Hutts.
Yeah,
I would love to see that. If this ends up being kind of an exploration of the Star Wars underworld, I think that would not be a bad thing. That would be really interesting. It's something that we haven't gotten. And at one point, they were talking about a video game, a Star Wars video game that was like a Grand Theft Auto, and kind of exploring the seedy underside of Star Wars. And that's what this would be, hopefully. That's what I'm hoping it is.
Who knows if it's even they were going to make that Boba Fett movie, as everybody knows.
Josh Trank,
is this just the? By the way, does it say on Disney Plus, Book of Boba Fett? Does it say, or does it just say? My mind is mush today because I'm so excited about this last episode. I in my mind I thought it said on Disney Plus, but I might be wrong. Are you checking it out?
I'm looking it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I assumed it was Disney Plus where we're gonna.
Oh, it says this is from Deadline from 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
The Book of Boba Fett new Disney Plus Star Wars series launching December 2021. I'm just trying to see if they have any more information than we do.
Did you check the Star Wars Twitter feed?
No, I'm looking. This is from Deadline. Last week, Kareem Daniel, chairman of media and entertainment distribution at Disney, said that Disney Plus would launch roughly 10 Marvel series, 10 Star Wars series, and 15 live-action animation and Pixar series over the next few years. So I guess this is supposed to be in that. It said roughly, I guess, because they didn't want to ruin the surprise of this, so that's why they didn't announce it back then.
They're not, like I'm going through the Twitter feed here, and it's like definitely radio silence. The other feed where I think we can expect to see something later today would be Mark Hamill.
What do you mean?
Mark Hamill was going to weigh in on this, right? On this episode.
Oh.
But he has not yet.
Anything?
He has not yet.
Okay.
But
well, he probably doesn't want to spoil it for people.
He's probably got to be quiet for the weekend, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe just today, the way things are. But I mean, this is heavy spoiler stuff all the way through. I don't know. I wouldn't have wanted to miss this. I probably would have gotten up at 5 a.m. to watch this if I had to work early or something, because this is the kind of thing that could get spoiled really easily. There's so much. Oh, and of course, when we cut away at the end sequence, we see the twin sons of Tatooine. In addition, yeah. So that was cool too. For a minute, I thought we were gonna see Luke Skywalker back on Tatooine with baby Grogu.
Oh, that would have been a great shot.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been.
Just like teaching him how to lift a rock or something.
Right.
Yeah. That would have been cool. Although I don't think his Jedi Academy is on Tatooine.
No, it's.
I don't know where it is, but
no, but he might have been in the neighborhood, and he had to drop off some stuff, or I don't know. He had to.
Well,
he had to go to Tachi Station.
Yeah, pick up those power converters.
That's right. They've been waiting for a decade.
Anyway, no, great episode, very, very exciting, and again, we'll rewatch it and talk about it probably more in the weeks ahead. But it was overall a great season of The Mandalorian, and I can't wait for season 3.
I think we have to do an episode in the near future because part of what I can't get my mind around yet at this point is if we were to do season 3, what might it be? And like they've sort of left it pretty wide open to explore.
Oh yeah,
and of course we've got Mando has the Darksaber, and they established that.
Oh yeah,
right. We forgot about that part. They established that now. Well, Bo-Katan, the joke's on you, because now you have to defeat Mandalorian if you want that Darksaber. And he's like, forget it. Here, have it.
And then she's like, no,
I forfeit it. Here, enjoy.
Don't you think they could have taken that into account when they were like coming up with the plan? And she should have said to Mando, by the way, don't fight him for that thing. I have to fight him, or else I don't get to keep it. Like, she could have explained that ahead of time.
She could have done that, but she just said, he's mine. Don't anybody ever forget he's mine. Like she
maybe she thought she was doing that. She didn't go into detail. She didn't feel like she needed to explain the whole thing. But she did say that he's mine. She's right. She did say that.
But it reminded me of the guy in Monty Python and the Holy Grail who's like, where are you guys going? We're coming with you. He's like, no. You stay here. In the room, and so and the two guys cannot take in the instructions that he's clearly giving them. And I thought that's the funny thing. It's like the door opens and there's Moff Gideon standing there, and I thought, it actually occurred to me at that moment that Bo-Katan's gonna be like, I thought I told you that he's mine. He's like, no, you don't get it. He's in the room when I opened the door. Well, okay, couldn't you have got him out of there without, like, couldn't you have done this? Couldn't you have done that? Like, listen, trust me, I had to fight him. Like, the conversation that they have to have after the fact about not listening to simple instructions. But does this mean that that we see Mando as the ruler of Mandalore then? In the next season?
Wow. I mean this whole next season could go into that. I suspect that we're going to get... Oh, no, I think... Actually, no, that's going to be the Ahsoka thing. The Thrawn thing is going to be the Ahsoka series. So we could see him get more into the Mandalorian, like the actual history of the race and the planet and all that stuff. So that could be the season 3. Now, I'm hoping that at some point in season 3, someone comes to him and says... Grogu's in trouble. Please come to the Jedi Academy. We've got this punk. No, this will be Kylo Ren's too young at this point for it to be for him to be anything like that. But we could jump ahead 10 years if we could.
Yeah, it's
there
possible.
could be a time jump. There could be a time jump in this series.
Yeah, but you're right. They could say there's this punk ass bitch down at the down at the academy who needs
He's a bully. He's picking on Baby Yoda. He's a bully.
Yeah.
That's it. Kylo Ren is a bully, and as soon as Baby Yoda shows up, he is like not having it.
My guess is, I mean, at this point, we know Baby Yoda's 50 years old, and I hope he never speaks on The Mandalorian. I don't think I don't think we're ready for that. Like, it'd be jarring if season 3 starts and he's talking like Yoda, like he won't shut up, kind of thing. He's smoking a cigar, like he's all grown up. I don't think that'll work. I think for the purposes of The Mandalorian, he has to stay a baby, I think. But I think I think you might have just cracked the code to the next season, which is we have to visit Mandalore for sure. And I think what else could they do to blow us away in season 3? And there is one more thing that we've been talking about all along that kind of has not come up yet, and that's the planet of Baby Yodas. The planet of Yodas has to exist somewhere.
The origin of that species is kind of what we're talking about here, right? So there's, and again, Yaddle, whatever happened to Yaddle, we don't know. It could be, Grogu could be Yaddle's son. He could be Yoda's son for all we know.
Could be Yoda and Yaddle's son.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're right. They're going to get into that as well. So I think that's probably what's coming for season 3. And I don't know if there's a season 4 confirmed yet or not, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know if what worries me is, like, I'm happy to get a season 3, but what worries me is all these other properties out there, and now they've created this intense fandom for The Mandalorian, and I almost don't want the other stuff. I'm good. I'm good with The Mandalorian, the way it's going. I love The Mandalorian. Like The Mandalorian is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. They did it. They pulled it off. They did something. And I as I was watching today's, I thought, if this were episode 7, people would be satisfied. If the season 2 of The Mandalorian.
I still maintain that you'd have to have in a movie, a Star Wars movie, you have to have more Luke, Leia, and Han. That's the part we did get Luke. We got one of them.
Yeah.
But we still don't have quite all those main Star Wars characters that everyone loves so much. So that's the kind of, the sequel trilogy did give us that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's hard to say. I certainly would like to see these episodes on a big screen. I would love to go to like a marathon of this once theaters open back up and we could go see it on the big screen, because the effects and all that stuff are all like high grade. These are Star Wars quality special effects throughout the series. So that would be awesome. I'm sure someone will do that at some point.
Like, I texted my friend today and I said, "Suck it, J.J. Abrams," and I was only joking. I was only joking. However, like, there's the thing that makes that joke funny is there's a little bit of truth there, which is we missed decades of the adventures of Luke Skywalker that we thought we might get, and we missed our old friends, and they did come back and they did have them in the roles, and it was great to see them, but all of that time in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, how many years are we talking about there? Like, is that
30 years?
Yeah, 30 years of potential stories that we didn't get to see. Okay, fine. But as The Mandalorian's proving, that particular time period is very fertile for Star Wars.
Yeah.
The more that they set there, I think the more interesting it is, because there's so much, like, there was so much after Return of the Jedi that people wanted to know. And even in today's episode where they said, you were cheering, the galaxy was cheering the destruction. I was on the Death Star.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
Galaxy,
that very first scene.
And the second joke this season of which Death Star. The second joke about which Death Star. And I think there's just so much there that I'm happy that we're getting a lot of Star Wars in that time period. And I thought today's was just proof of what you can do in that time period. It's just, oh my God, like they did it. They did it, and I didn't. And of course, when I say suck it, JJ, I only mean it in the lightest sense of the word, because JJ didn't make this. JJ said it 30 years in the future, or Lucasfilm did, and that means that the stories couldn't be like the one we saw today.
Yeah, well, that's fair. But the only thing that sucks about it is that they do still have to like maintain the framework of what JJ did. Like at some point they're gonna have to talk about Snoke and the oranges of Snoke and all that stuff. And I think they've already planted the seeds of that by having this clone doctor, and them combining, Baby Yoda's midichlorians with clones and that kind of stuff. That was kind of, you're right. They're like planting the seeds for that. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care about Snoke anymore. I'm done. I'm done with all that crap. I just want to, you know what I mean? Like that's the problem, is that they're going to kind of try to tie it in. They've done a great job of incorporating the prequels and the original films into this series. Like there's references to both. But now they have to kind of look forward into the sequels and use some of that at some point, or they can't contradict it is what I'm saying. And yeah, by the way, the Emperor is still out there somewhere, right? Like that kind of thing is still possible. So that's the only downside, I would say. And as far as this episode goes, my only complaint is that it turned out that Gideon was not as badass as we thought he was. He was a little too easy to defeat, in my opinion, but that's just the way it is.
Well, and they also have him alive.
They do, yeah, that's right. So he could come back. He could do something else. But I have to say, I have to give props to Giancarlo Esposito for doing a great job. It's not just Gus Fring. Like he's known for being these bad guys, Gus Fring, and he even did that character in The Boys this season. He was on The Boys. Yeah. So, but they're all very different characters. And he does a great job of playing those different characters. It's not just the same guy. So
no, I liked him. I like how he said, "You're taking me alive. This should be interesting." Yeah. Like he's kind of the guy along for the story, and like, oh, this will be interesting to see how this unfolds. Yeah. And when you see that he has access to a gun, you're kind of like, oh, he's gonna kill somebody in this room probably. But in the end, he's just like, in the end, he's not a formidable opponent. You can give him all the weaponry in the world, and it doesn't matter because
he's nothing without his garrison of stormtroopers, basically.
Right.
Last season we saw him with an army of stormtroopers, and they had to get out of there. That was actually, I would say, the stakes were probably higher at last season finale than this one. Similar to the episode with Ahsoka, I did not feel like any of the characters were actually in danger in this episode. Even when it came to the Rock'em Sock'em robots, I knew at some point they were going to be able to defeat them. The fact that they're droids makes them fallible. Is kind of my feeling about it. Droids we've known for a very long time that droid troopers do not work, and this is just another example of that.
I thought there might be some surprise within those droids. There might be some weird experiment.
Well, I thought they would be able to use the Force. I thought they might be able to use the Force, but no.
Right. There could have been. There might have been, but I was okay with it the way it was, because it's like they set up the scene that one of them is very difficult to beat. And so you're like, well, what? The only thing that could beat them is the most badass Jedi in the galaxy. Yeah. So it's that's pretty good. And by the way, Mace Windu did not show up. I should mention.
Yeah. Go figure.
I was like, part
Speaking
of me
Sam
was
Jackson.
like, oh. Yeah, well, I was so excited to see Luke, but part of me was a little sad. I shed a tear for the Ignite the Purple.
You're going to push for that for season 3, aren't you? You're going to be like, okay, now we bring in Mace Windu, right?
You know what? They go to the Jedi Temple in season 3, and there's Mace Windu just chilling. There's no explanation. He doesn't say anything. He's just like sitting there in the background with Yaddle. They're having they're just sitting in the background. It's like, nah. No explanation required.
All right. Well, we gotta wrap things up. We're getting up to an hour here. There's lots to talk about, but we will continue the conversation. This is probably going to be our last episode of. Is this going to be our last episode 2020? Let's look at the calendar here. Probably, right?
Yeah. Next week we'll do best of the year.
Well, maybe
right?
the week after. Let's take a week off for Christmas. How about that? Then next week we'll do best of the year on Media Nerds, and then we'll figure out a new schedule for Media Nerds and Star Wars Nerds going forward, because that's just a mess. This semester with all the other stuff going on, we have not stuck to a good schedule for this stuff. So we'll figure it out.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I have one last little thing. When Mando says, "No, here you can have the Darksaber. It's okay. I forfeit. Here, take it, have it, or whatever." That reminds me of when school tells me that somebody else will be teaching my class, and I'm like, "Yeah, have it."
Really?
Fine.
There we go.
Like, fine. I don't care. Here, take it.
All right.
It's nothing without the power of Larson.
There you go.
Is what I say. The content without the power of Larson is nothing. Similarly, Mando's like, have it. Have the Darksaber. See if I care.
I don't care about it.
I'm still Mando.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much, Kenton. It's been fun watching this season of The Mandalorian and talking about it with you on this podcast. We're gonna wrap that that aspect of it up. And to all the listeners, thank you very much for listening. Let us know your thoughts on The Mandalorian. You can feedback to us in our Star Wars Nerds Facebook group, which is linked below in the show notes, or you can just get at us on Twitter. I'm having issues with my Twitter account right now, but hopefully I can fix that soon. But yeah, we'd love to know what everybody else thinks of it, and be specific. Tell us what, like, not just I love it, but be specific about it. Let us know what you like specifically. But we're going to take a bit of a break, and we'll be back in the new year. Thank you very much for listening. That's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vedabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
How are you? TK421, you copy?
Now I am the master.
I'm taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
That's no moon.
Now I